Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. We just recently exited a very strange phase of Star Wars. It was a period in which fans were bombarded with TV shows like never before, thanks to Disney Plus's efforts in the streaming wars. Now seriously, if you had told the 11-year-old version of me that we were getting not one but two live-action Star Wars TV shows in a year, I would have freaked out. I mean, back then we were just so starved for content. We had like books and comics, but just not enough live action stuff. And nothing makes the Star Wars galaxy come alive more than live action. You know, seeing that favorite planet or character that you've been reading about all your life on screen can truly be an amazing experience. It can also really piss you off if, you know, the images that you've created in your head don't match up with what Lucasfilm has brought to life on TV. But that's just all a part of being a Star Wars fan, right? Now, the weird thing in the last few years is despite having so many different shows in the Filoniverse, most of them visited the same planet, at least a few times, Tatooine. In The Mandalorian, which is sort of the anchor show for the Filoniverse, we journey to Tatooine in the first season, where Mando Bro ends up taking on a young Corellian bounty hunter assistant, who he has to put down later on like a dog. There's usually never enough room in a single squad for a Mandalorian and a Corellian. They just butt heads. Then Din Djarin returns to Tatooine again in the first episode of the second season. He's looking for the location of other Mandalorians. And after that, Din Djarin once again returns to Tatooine in the Book of Boba Fett in order to get a new starship. And the Book of Boba Fett, well, that mostly follows the gangster after he emerges from the Sarlacc pit and documents his slow takeover of Mos Espa, which of course is on Tatooine. Then we have the Kenobi series, which also takes place on Tatooine because that's where Kenobi spends his time in exile. So why do we keep going back to Tatooine? What's with all the sand? Well, there is the nostalgia factor in Star Wars. That's a big thing. And Tatooine was the first planet introduced in the original Star Wars, and then it was reintroduced in the prequels and briefly visited at the end of the sequels. Plus, the sequels had Jakku, which is just Tatooine, but with more sand. Nostalgia is definitely one of the big factors on why we see this planet over and over again, but from a more practical standpoint, getting on location shots for a science fiction show in a galaxy full of planets is difficult, even on a diverse planet like Earth. But sand planets are relatively easy to shoot here on Earth. The massive dunes of Tunisia and elsewhere definitely look alien-like to the audience. And in the Star Wars galaxy, a lot of planets seem to have one very extreme biome. You have ice planets, you have jungle planets, you have volcano planets, and of course, you have desert planets, a lot of desert planets. And so yeah, going to a desert here on Earth, whether it's in Jordan or Tunisia or Dubai, gives you a lot of production value. Plus, The Mandalorian debuted a new shooting method known as stagecraft. It was pioneered by ILM and involves using a 270-degree high-quality LED video wall to show backgrounds live. This was a complete game changer at the time. During the prequel era, actors needed to be shot in front of a green or blue screen and backgrounds had to be compiled in post. This made it harder for actors to have context about where and what they're shooting. Lighting can also be challenging in a green screen situation as well. You have all these walls painted in blue and green, and that will reflect all over the place. You also have to budget for more time in post, and you also have to budget for the possibility of making mistakes and having to reshoot things. The ILM virtual set transported actors directly into the worlds they were supposed to be inhabiting. The screens and background images were so high quality that they also produced realistic lighting for the subjects on screen. While you might need more technicians and computer people to basically run this stagecraft screen and render all the 3D background animations, it will get rid of a lot of people in the lighting department. You're going to get rid of gaffers and grips. Even the camera department is going to be simplified because you really don't need to plan camera movements or other things for compositing in post. Now, one of the negatives of stagecraft is because you're using this sort of fake lighting and not direct lighting, you're gonna get a lot flatter looks, and that might not work for certain things. This technology works great at generating wide plains, dune seas, but when it comes to higher detail stuff like cities, new alien worlds, it can be a bit lacking. When Andor was released, a lot of fans loved how it looked, and that's because Tony Gilroy used a lot of real-life sets and shot a lot of stuff on location. The vibe and the scope in Andor seemed a lot more epic than The Mandalorian. And that's because almost 50% of the first season of The Mandalorian was shot using stagecraft technology. And it would also be used in subsequent shows. And so it's very possible that ILM was just reusing assets in order to save money across all of its shows. And this could be one of the reasons why we visit Tatooine so many times within like 2 years. That is the direct effect of the streaming wars. Making so many Star Wars shows in such a short time definitely isn't cheap. Before we continue, let me introduce to you guys our sponsor for today's video, Exter, a company that makes awesome gear for people on the move. Our wallets are the most important pieces of gear that we can own. It holds all of our valuables, our identification, it has money inside of it. So why not have a wallet that is designed specifically for your needs? Unlike this thing I just picked up randomly. It's bulky, it's ugly, it's falling apart. This is where Exter comes into play. They've designed these amazing, beautiful, sleek, minimalistic wallets that have, all the little features you want and none of the features you don't want. This is the Parliament. My version has this beautiful Italian vachetta leather on the outside. It can hold up to 12 cards, including up to 6 in this main compartment that pops up with a slight click of a button. That's really the unique feature of this wallet, and as someone who habitually always is fumbling through all the slots in my wallet, this is a game changer. There's also this nice strap for your cash should you need it. The Parliament is also fitted with RFID blocking material to keep it safe from wireless theft. You can also put a tracker card inside of this wallet to make sure that you never lose it. And right now, everything at Exter is 55% off. Just make sure you use our promo code, Generation Tech, that's all caps. So check out the description down below for more information, and as usual, thank you for your patience. On to the rest of the video. So we've talked about the financial and real-life reasons why Tatooine was used so much by Lucasfilm in these shows, but then there's the in-universe reason, which is actually quite interesting in its own way. And it goes beyond the Skywalker clan's connection to the planet. Yes, Anakin was born on Tatooine, and yes, Luke Skywalker would be sent on Tatooine to be raised in secret because Anakin's old family was from there. But Din Djarin and Boba Fett don't really have much to do with the Skywalker clan at all, yet they seem to gravitate towards this planet anyway. So why is this? What makes Tatooine so special? It's not like it's Arrakis or something. It doesn't have some magical spice beneath its dune seas that powers the entire galaxy. Although the Pike Syndicate and many other gangs have used this planet as a transfer point for spice shipments. Not magical spice, just the normal kind that gets you feeling a bit loopy. As a matter of fact, the Pikes, the Hutts, the Tusken Raiders are constantly battling over the rights of who can use the Dune Seas to run their drug shipments. It's not like Arrakis, but it's like a mini Arrakis where you have many warring parties fighting over the same small piece of sand. You'll begin to notice that on Tatooine in general, the drug cartels, the gangsters, they seem to have a lot more freedom and a lot less opposition from local law enforcement than on other worlds. And this perhaps is what makes Tatooine so important to Star Wars. Located in the Arcanus sector in the Outer Rim, Tatooine has always been on the edge of Republic or Imperial space. And like a lot of Outer Rim planets, Tatooine was a lawless wasteland. A lawless wasteland that escaped investment from major corporations. Although you did see some minor corporations like Surzica come and attempt to find raw materials on the planet to extract, but most of those operations failed hundreds of years ago. That's why you have all those sand crawlers lying all over the place used by the Jawas. That's all that's left of the business presence that used to be here on Tatooine. A lack of valuable minerals, an abundance of dangerous tribes and local fauna made this not a very enticing planet to base your business operations on. And so instead it would be desperate colonists looking for a new start, strange religious orders like the Bo-Amar Order, and of course a lot of criminals who would mainly inhabit Tatooine. Now during the last years of the Republic and during the Imperial era, the Hutts would actually become rulers of Tatooine, or at least be in charge of its major population centers. And by rule, I don't mean rule in the modern sense, collect taxes and then use those taxes to create services that you distribute amongst the populace. I mean more old school type of rule. The Hutts treated their planets like small fiefdoms. They were basically gangster kings. They would occasionally collect protection money and offer very little in return to the people they collected money from. And they would use the threat of force and other intimidating actions to get what they wanted. Now, if we take a look at Tatooine's location again, what makes it so unique is its non-aligned status combined with its relatively good location. You see, Tatooine was the first stop on the minor Trellius trade route when you turn onto it from the Corellian Run. This makes it one of the few very lawless planets that is also located very close to the major hyperspace lanes. And so if you're a smuggler, a pirate, or a bounty hunter, Tatooine was a terrific place to base your operations from. You were close enough to the hyperspace lanes where you can make some credits, but also safe from the authorities if your profession is a bit sketchy. The Hutts didn't really care who you were or what you did on other planets as long as you followed the rules on their planets. If anything, the Hutts liked employing some of the random thugs and killers that rotated in and out of town on Mos Espa and Mos Eisley. And when the Empire took over the galaxy, they started basically rolling a lot of industries into the military-industrial complex, and that just wasn't for everyone. A lot of people suddenly found themselves without a job. And a lot of normal people who had normal jobs and careers turned to the Outer Rim to seek a better life away from the Empire. And with more and more Imperial security crackdowns being initiated by Palpatine, like the PORD initiative, becoming a smuggler became even more lucrative than before. And since even the Empire backed the Hutt black market, smuggling became an increasingly popular line of work. It also should be noted that the Outer Rim colonies were the most heavily affected parts of the galaxy when it came to the Imperial crackdown. Simply put, the places that were the furthest away from Coruscant had the least amount of eyes watching it, and so the Empire could get away with more egregious and brutal actions there. And so on worlds like Tatooine, there was plenty of anti-Imperial sentiment. Heck, any type of federal government was seen as overbearing. The people who lived in the Outer Rim have long been neglected by people in the core regions of the galaxy. And so during the Clone Wars and also during the Galactic Civil War, Tatooine would remain a neutral place for people seeking shelter from war and politics, for people hiding their ill-gotten gains from the authorities, and for political prisoners who are trying to escape the Empire. And I think it's the forgotten and free nature of Tatooine that makes it so enticing to creators. You see, Star Wars isn't just about the Skywalker saga. To me, it's really just a place in which amazing stories can take place, and to me, Tatooine is the perfect entry point into the galaxy. And that's because the characters you find on Tatooine are pretty much at the bottom of the barrel from a galactic standpoint. They have nothing of value, they have no prospects. The only thing that they have is what they're born with, and a lot of sand. It's really the classic RPG beginning, you know, the prisoner on the boat, the prisoner in the dungeon, or, in this case, the moisture farmer on Tatooine. If you begin here, literally any direction in which you go, you'll probably be going upwards. This is perhaps why Tatooine is featured in more Star Wars content than any other world, and continues to be a favorite amongst both fans and creators. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. See you next time.